we had no idea when we were making the movie or when we finished the movie or when we screened the movie Chicken Jockey would become these meme events. The response in theatres, as I'm sure you saw, was just bonkers. But Jared was very good at just understanding from a fan point of view what needed to be serviced, and I think he did a fantastic job of that. The reaction is a testament to him understanding the world so well.
Hi, I'm Gordon Burkell from Filmmaker U. At Filmmaker U, we create courses for film professionals to deepen and diversify your existing skill set. You can learn more at filmmakeru.com, or of course, follow us on Instagram at filmmaker_u. Every week, we interview a film professional to discuss their work, and this week I'm joined by editor James Thomas, whose work includes the Muppets movie, Pokemon Detective Pikachu, and more recently, a Minecraft movie. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Great to be here.
I
Thanks.
guess my first question is, how did you get involved with a Minecraft movie, and how much did you know about Minecraft before you got started?
Good question. So I got involved through my friends at Legendary, Mary Parent and Kel Boyter, who I think this is probably my fifth movie with them, Minecraft. And the first movie we did together was Hot Tub Time Machine back in 2000, whenever that was. I can't remember when that was, but a long time ago. And so they were putting together a short list of editors that they thought might be suitable for the project to meet Jared Hess, our director. And they put me in front of Jared. We met, we got on like a house on fire, and he hired me.
I have to say, Hot Tub Time Machine, totally did not expect how good that movie was going to be, just based on me. I feel like everyone was just like, wait, what? Because it was
Yeah,
just
it was a real sleeper movie that I don't think anyone expected that cast to kind of cohere in the way it did, and the
Mhm.
story was just such a retro story that everyone could relate to. And yeah, it was awesome. I was a co-editor on that.
Yeah.
George Folsey was the other editor, and I came in to help out. And that was the first time I was hired by Mary Parent and Kel Boyter, legendary.
I think what attracted me to color correction was the fact that we were like the next stage of cinematography. And the creative side was huge, trying to understand what was wrong with an image, how to balance it, trying to understand how to let the tools do what you want them to do. Where else can the technology go? What else can we do? I'm very interested in trying to mold the image and create the best look possible. And whatever tools are out there, you want to try and latch onto them. I'm Eric Whipp, and this is my course on color correction.
Now you've worked on big films, like I mentioned, Detective Pikachu and what have you, but like Minecraft is like a massive tentpole film. And I'm wondering, what are some of the challenges that come with that compared to something like, I mentioned to you earlier, Toxic Avenger, or stuff like that. This is a big sort of project. So what are some of the things that people might not be aware of that are challenges to editors in that project like this?
Yeah, it's a very different type of experience. It's a very different genre to work on a huge, big, $150 million plus budget movie for a big studio. And really, what it comes down to, I would say, on a movie like Minecraft is planning, and it's planning for visual effects mostly. So Dan Lemon was our visual effects supervisor, Weta and Sony were our two vendors. And really, it's just being organized to the point where you can confidently, with your director, turn over your shots to meet the schedule so that the deadline was pretty accelerated for us. We were
Mhm.
shooting in New Zealand last January, so January 24, and we were turning shots over whilst Jared was still shooting the movie because the lead time on a big visual effects shot with Weta would be 3 to 6 months. And so that was really it, was just organizing our workflow to the point that we could make our ultimate deadline of delivering the film for April of this year.
Yeah. And I guess, did you do things like rolling mixes and stuff to try and keep it moving forward, or?
We did. So we temp mixed the movie, and part of screening a comedy, obviously, as part of screening any movie is audience test screenings. And so we, with our sound team led by Jay Jennings and our mixer Julian Slater, we basically would temp mix the movie. I think we previewed the movie maybe, I want to say 6 times in total, which for a movie this size is also quite unusual. And we had a friends and family very early on in the process. I think at the end of director's cut, so 10 weeks into the process after Jared had finished his cut, we put the movie up for 350 people, which is certainly something that I haven't personally experienced doing that early in the process. So, that kept everyone on their toes and ultimately resulted in the finished product.
Well, and you mentioned the VFX, and I was wondering because I saw that, Grant Major did the production design and did a great job, but I'm wondering
Yes.
how much was production design and how much was visual effects, and like what were you getting? Like I saw some where it was people dressed in costumes and then they just had mocap heads on, some were full mocap. Like were you getting temp material in for the rough cut, or was it like just people in mocap suits?
It was a real mixture. So we prevised quite a lot of the movie. We prevised some of the big action sequences, the
Mhm.
wingsuit chase, that sort of thing. But when it came to shooting, yes, it was a very smart um, confluence of practical and then visual effects work from Dan and his team. So yeah, Grant designed these incredible cubic sets, right, where everything
Mhm.
was square: potatoes, apples, bread, everything.
Yeah.
And then they would shoot I think you're referring to the villagers
Yeah.
basically, which was they were obviously uh, performers in costume, and then they had all of the tracking stuff on their faces that then Dan and his team added the blocky villager heads to. So it was a we had some temp stuff for our previews, but again, with a big visual effects movie, there's such a long lead time that you have to ask your audience to kind of suspend belief sometimes. And it's quite hard to preview a movie that's so dependent on its final visual effects look.
Mhm.
And so, yes, we were very fortunate that we were able to find audiences that we could tell them, this is a glimpse behind the curtain. You're getting to see something very early on, but so please use your imagination. But the finish on the visual effects added, such a degree of polish to the film.
What is your approach to tackling? Because I always think of the issue of like pacing when you're working on a visual effects scene. Like I think about where they're ch being chased through the air or when they're going through the mine in the mine cart. Like so much of that is digital and you just don't have it. So like how do you figure out pacing and rhythm and timing and story in a situation where we don't have
The
blocks of it?
shots.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great question. Sound is how I tend to do that. So I've always uh, been very conscious of trying to create the best possible rough cut for sound, especially with a movie like this,
Yeah.
where, as you say, you're being chased or whatever, and you tend to find the rhythm. It's not a radio play,
Mhm.
but you tend to find the rhythm sonically of where the beats need to come, and then obviously post viz really helps with that process. So the wingsuit chase was very. We spent a long time pre-vising that sequence,
Mhm.
and then they shot it, and then we did a bunch of post viz on it as well. Um, but yes, I guess the short answer to that question is sound. So if you've got the great hog chasing our guys in through the minecart sequence,
Mhm.
you would build in the beats with him, with that character sonically,
Mhm.
and find that timing. And then obviously, when you start to get back iterations of your finished visual effects, you are then constantly noodling. And that's why we try and get stuff to them as soon as possible, because it is such a long
Mhm.
process.
Now, you and I talked briefly about Jack Black before, and he is just a ball of, I don't know how he has that energy
I
because I'm
know, I
tired
know.
by like 4 p.m. and he's just like, I'm like, I don't know how he's probably getting up at like 4 to do these scenes.
He's a beast, an absolute beast.
What
Yeah.
what were the rushes like coming from him? Because I've seen, you know, like I was lucky enough to do stuff with the X-Files early, and he did a film with that, and he was very subdued because he was young and just starting. But I'm
Yes.
wondering, like, what were because now he's a big star and he's sort of defined his personality or has a personality. So what were the rushes like? And what was it like choosing cuts and takes?
Well, he is a true force of nature, and he and Jared have a, pretty established working relationship. Nacho Libre, they've done together. They've
Mm.
worked together a couple of times, and so they had this real shorthand. Um, and so, yeah, his dailies were just a joy. Honestly, he just brought this energy that was kind of infectious. Every other cast member, just raised their game, I think, whenever they were in a scene with Jack. And his chemistry with Jason Momoa, for me, comedically, made the movie. And, we didn't really know, obviously, they'd never really worked together before. And so we didn't really know how that was gonna to pan out. But the two of them really liked each other. And then they just were very, very, they were a great pairing comedically, because Jason was kind of playing against type, which he's Aquaman, but he's running around in a pink fringe jacket and he's scared of everything. And Jack was this kind of bombastic, turned up to 11 character. And so it was a lot of fun to get those dailies. I mean, it then becomes about calibration of performance, and we pulled him back in some places and we pushed him in others. And originally Jack was not the narrator of the story, but then one of our producers, Cale Boyter, came up with the great idea of how about if he actually takes us on this journey. And so all of the voiceover in the prologue then became Jack's rendition and story. And, it's just evolving the whole time. But Jack, yeah, I mean, he's Jack Black. And so his energy and his fun and just what he brought, especially for the younger performers. Um, the guy who played Henry, Sebastian, he and Jack just made him feel at ease the whole time, and was a just brilliant, brilliant guy to have on set to work with.
Well, and I'd love to know like y- so like you sort of talked about you know, Jack wasn't going to be the narrator and then he was. I'm wondering how, because in the edit is the final rewrite. So what changed from the original script to what we're seeing on the screen?
Um, well, the script was constantly evolving, and so I don't know how familiar you are with the movie, but like the end battle
Hmm.
scene, for instance, that completely changed. So prior to Christmas 2023, me and my team, my assistant, I think we started working on the movie in May of 2023. So we were cutting storyboards and coming up with, the studio was coming up with ideas, the writers were coming up with new ideas. And so Jared had a great relationship with these storyboard artists in New Zealand who were constantly drawing stuff, and we were changing stuff. But the end battle completely changed. That was a much more of a direct sort of physical face-off between Malgosha and our heroes. That idea all went away, and we landed on eventually, probably with like, I want to say like 3 weeks to go. We landed, but prior to shooting the sequence, we landed on that through the process of storyboards and reworking stuff. But so yeah, the movie changed a lot. The opening, we were going to have a narrator, but it wasn't Jack. It was somebody else. Um, and then Matt Berry was going to be our narrator, and then scheduling wise, that didn't work out, and so um, Jack then got that role. And actually, it was one of those perfect sort of evolutions where you're like, oh well, why didn't we think of this right at the beginning of this process? Because you know, if you're familiar with the game, Steve and Alex are the two main skins and characters in the game. And why would we not have Alex, the male character? Sorry, Steve, the male character, hold our hand through this journey and take us on the ride. So it actually worked out brilliantly. I think it made the movie so much better.
Probably one of the smartest things I've ever done for my career. It gave me all the tools that I needed to be able to jump into a new career. Getting myself into a mindset, thinking like an editor, being around people that I can talk to on that level was really invaluable to me.
A lot of the things that I learned from that class, I still think about.
I loved the classroom. I loved the computer stations. We built a sense of community.
And it also instills a lot of confidence in you to take that and go out into the world.
After I took the class, I felt very prepared to take the next step.
I owe Manhattan Workshop the career that I have right now. Things have been going great, and I really have the Manhattan Workshop to thank for that.
How you feel about the chicken jockey phenomenon?
Yeah, I mean, what a brilliant, pleasant surprise. I mean, we had no idea when we were making the movie, or when we finished the movie, or when we screened the movie, that certain pieces would become these meme events and cultural phenomena. You know, what the response in theaters, as I'm sure you saw, was just bonkers to chicken jockey. So we had no idea that was going to happen, but Jared was very good at just understanding from a fan point of view what needed to be serviced, and I think he did a fantastic job of that, and the reaction is a testament to him understanding the world so well.
Now, I'd love to ask you a question about Toxic Avenger, because I was a fan of the original,
Right.
and you've done the remake, and the original sort of, I don't know how to describe the editing, but it's sort of like we have those old sort of TV clips and the cutting frenetically, and you've sort of redone this in the new one, and I'm wondering, you know, what were some of the challenges in making the new Toxic Avenger?
Yeah, so that was again, I co-edited that with Brett Bachman, who did an incredible. I came on sort of after director's cut, so Brett put the movie together with Macon, our director, and then Brett had another commitment, so he had to go and work on another show. So I came in and took over the post, or the editing on the movie. And yeah, it was, again, for me, it was just catching up in the same way that I kind of had to do my homework prior to working on Minecraft. So I went back and I watched, obviously, the original. I watched a bunch of other Troma movies, and had long conversations with Macon stylistically, but they had really established the style for the movie at that point. And it's just leaning into the ridiculousness of it, you know, the sort of the gore of it, you know, the kind of very camp gore of it. Peter Dinklage's performance was also a real kind of, you know, markers for where the comedy was, where the pathos was. You know, as an editor, I think you're only as good as your actors' performances ultimately. I mean, you can shape them, but their rhythm, their cadence, their natural ability to be funny, sad, whatever it is, you know, we are, as editors, we're sort of passengers on that particular train. And so, yes, it was. I mean, you'll have to tell me when you see the movie, when it's released on at the end of the summer, August 29th, I think it is. Right? Yeah. But I had a blast working on it, and Macon was very inclusive and collaborative to welcome me in sort of halfway through the process. And yeah, stylistically, I think the tone came from Macon's vision. And he really did have a vision for how to stay true to the original movie, keep that schlocky kind of gory vibe, but then take it and absolutely update it. And I think he did an incredible job with that. The movie's really, really fun. And it's taken a while to find a distributor, because it's pretty risque. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, that it's pretty out there. And so I think conventional distributors were a bit nervous of it.
Mhm.
But Cineverse came along, saw the movie, and did the right thing. It's really good.
Now, I have one last question for you. What would you say is your favorite guilty pleasure film or TV show to watch?
I love old, relatively old English comedies. So Peep Show. There's a show called The Young Ones that
Mhm.
I don't know if you're familiar with that show, but
I've heard of it. I haven't seen it.
I was, I grew up in the UK, and I'm in my late 50s. And so there were certain formative shows that basically shaped. The Muppets was another one.
Yeah.
And so to work on those movies was literally a dream come true. But I would say a show that I end up revisiting quite often is a show called The Young Ones, which is a very quintessentially English show and of its time. The comedy is very, it's Marmite. You either love it or you hate it. But I would say that was my kind of entry into the world of comedy, and that's where my interest in comedy was sparked. And then, of course, getting the chance to go on and work with Sacha Baron Cohen and do all of his
Yeah.
movies as well. So
Oh. Well, thank you so much for letting me interview you today.
it's a pleasure. It's been great speaking with you.
And that's it for this week, everyone. Make sure to check us out at filmmakeru.com and, of course, on Instagram at filmmaker_you. I'm Gordon Burkell. Thanks for watching.